Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. Let's move swiftly to our next segment of the program. Over the past few days, there have been allegations. It's 40 days to the opening of the first ballot. And tonight, we'll be talking about critical issues on issues relating to the election. There was a scare over the 2019 election last week when INEC was not sure lecturers who were often used as ad hoc officials for the election might not be available owing to the ongoing university lecturer strike. But the umpire met with the union, and the union said that their members are free to participate in the elections. That was in the midst of the series of verbal war between the PDP and the APC. Over the past days, allegations arrived linking Mrs. Amina Zakari, a national commissioner of INEC, to the President Muhammadu Buhari. The allegation is that it's coming from the PDP, and the grounds is that Mrs. Zakari is a blood relation to the president and being appointed to chair the Committee on Collation. There are fears that she might be rigging the elections in favor of APC and President Buhari. Mrs. Zakari has come out to say she is not related to President Buhari. Take a listen to her.
I'm not his niece, I'm not his cousin. And on this job, I've been appointed since 2010 by President Jonathan. And prior to that, I was appointed an SA to President Obasanjo. And I've done my work conscientiously over the years as a patriotic citizen of Nigeria.
The INEC chairman was affirmative in his response on the matter. She is also defending Mrs. Zakari.
Well, let me say categorically that she's not related to the president. She's from Jigawa State. The president is from Katsina State.
The presidency, too, have come out to say, quote, President Buhari and Commissioner Amina Zakari don't share a family relationship, and intermarriage occurred in their extended family. So the imputation of blood relationship between the president and the electoral commissioner is a simple lie. They went further to say what is even more curious about all the force coming from the PDP is that they, as a ruling party, picked Mrs. Zakari, judging her by her own merits, and made her an electoral commissioner, end of quote. The PDP is raising more fears. Today, they said, and I quote, "We want the whole world to know that Nigeria is in a perilous time. President Muhammadu Buhari's desperation for self-succession has become the major threat to our national unity, stability, and peaceful electoral process." They said, having realized that Nigerians are rallying behind their candidate Atiku Abubakar as the next president, the Buhari presidency is now seeking ways to amend the electoral process in crisis. Let's begin the conversation, everyone, tonight. I have joining me from Abuja studio the Director of Communications for the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and side by side with him is one of the spokespersons of the Atiku Abubakar Campaign Organization, a former Minister of Aviation, Mr. Osita Chidoka. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. Let me begin with you, Mr. Chidoka. Mrs. Zakari come out to say she's not related to the president. The presidency said she's not related to the president. INEC chairman has said she's not related to the president. But your party is insisting that she is, and your party is also saying that there are plans by the APC to rig elections. Are there watertight evidence against the APC?
Thank you very much. I think that this will have been a needless controversy if Haji Amina Zakari was a legal officer or a judge and somebody said, this judge I don't want her in my case, she will have recused herself. But more importantly, I hear the president said that she's actually not related by blood, but they are related because his sister got married to her father. And so she's a niece, actually. So I find it strange that she said she's not related to President Buhari. But it is important to also note that in many countries of the world that has advanced beyond us, it's called the Bobby Kennedy Law, as people say in America, after he appointed his brother as Attorney General. The government passed a law in the United States, restriction against employment of relatives. And relatives included nieces, half-brother, half-sister. Any mother, father-in-law, sister-in-law were identified as relatives. Now, if this is not a shameless country, why would somebody that the president had appointed, because he said PDP appointed him. Yes, the PDP appointed him in 2010. The president reappointed him as a commissioner after he made her acting chairman of INEC. Now, if we were to go by the relatives, the fact that she's a relative, she ought not to have been appointed by the president. But let's assume there's no law against that in Nigeria. But moral standards, some form of good behavior will have warranted her to say, you know, President Buhari I've known very closely. He's a member of my family, even if it's not blood relationship. I will not be party to anything that will, in the process of electing him as president. She remains as INEC commissioner. She should have just been decent enough to say, I recuse myself, because a relative of mine, even when you have a close friend running for office, when I sit in promotion councils in FRSC, when a relation of mine, he's from my village, not my blood relation, came for promotion, I recuse myself to say, I will not sit in this process. Let others take a decision on him. So I think that here is a case of morality. We have looked up to President Buhari to be the bellwether of this country for morality, for integrity. He ought to be setting new standards. He ought not to go back to the levels that the country needs to get away from by saying, simply, if this is an issue, Mrs. Zakari, just step aside from the electoral process of 2019 and let's proceed. If you are certain that you have nothing to hide. So I stand by the PDP position that she is a relative of the president, no matter how loosely it's defined, and that she should not be party, she should not participate in the process of what will happen to the election of the president.
Mr. Keyamo, can you relate to what Mr. Chidoka is saying? If the presidency is saying they're not related, but well, the relationship is because of marriage and what have you. Does that dispute that fact? And the fears of the PDP, is it valid for you?
Well, I think this whole thing is actually a storm in a teacup. The tactics of the PDP has been to repeat a lie 1 million times in order to force it on Nigerians. And we have seen the pattern over the last few months. This is another lie they are repeating over and over for it to stick at all costs that she is a relative. The people involved have said they are not relatives. They have explained the relationship that does not fall within any of the definition of relatives. Now, my friend here just mentioned it again. I mentioned it in passing as if it is given that she is a niece to the president. And that is a lie. It's just L-I is a lie. Because we all know what nieces are, who nieces are. We know. And we expect that if they are saying that she is a niece to the president, we expect them to be very graphic in their details, explaining exactly how she's related and what the definition of a niece is. And that is not correct. That is one. The second level of this engagement is to also find out, is to tell you that we are not here, and let us make it very clear, to defend the position of INEC, because INEC is there to also defend themselves. We did not make the appointment. We did not put her in the position she is now. We are only here to make the point that PDP has no right to dictate to the nation how we should run our elections and run our democracy. That PDP has no right, because we are stakeholders, to equal stakeholders, that PDP has no right to impose on the nation what its own sense of fairness is and its own subjective interpretation of fair play is. They have no right to do so. We have also the right to determine exactly how, by the rules, playing by the rules, we will make our own contributions to ensure that there is fair play. So the question of fair play should be an objective test, not a subjective test of the PDP. Now, the next level of this is whether the role given to her, assigned to her, is likely to affect the result of the election. And we have said over and over, INEC has said it is not even at all remotely related to the collation of results. She is what they call she is the head of a committee for the collation center. A collation center committee, not a collation committee. There are two different phrases here. Collation center committee and a collation committee. She is not the head of a collation committee. In other words, she is not involved at all in the collation. She will not be involved in the collation of results at all. She would only be involved in logistics, in making sure logistics are provided in the International Conference Center where the results will be collected. In other words, are the bulbs working? Are the internet facilities working? She will accredit visitors, accredit journalists, and she's only a member of the committee. There are other members of that same committee, so she's not going to have absolute powers even in respect of that committee. So she's not going to come close to result collation at all. So what is the fear of the PDP if she's not going to come close to collation result? We all are football lovers. We know that when a visiting team, for example, is coming to play a football match, it is the home team that prepares the stadium. They clean the stadium. They make sure the pitch is dry, the pitch is ready. And those are the supporters, the home supporters that they employ, that prepare the field. But when the match starts, independent referees come on the field. Would you say that because, or the visiting team, would they say because the home supporters are preparing the stadium, cleaning the stadium, that they will not come into that field to play a match? I think what is going on is that PDP is at their wit's end. They are staring defeat in the face. They don't know where to run to again. So they have resorted to this type of, scaremongering,
all right,
crying when there is no, wolf when there is none. And I think that is where we are now.